Howdy, all of you delicious people. I'm here today to review Moon Knight, Season 1, Episode 4. Just not exactly thrilled about this episode. But I think in the second half of the back half of this episode, I'm like, ooh, what a reveal. Giving me, some all new, all different vibes, if you know what I mean. Uh, um, so yeah, they go on and they tease us that there's still a coffin or sarcophagus or whichever to be opened in this episode. And so, like, that's kind of telling us that something is still to be coming here. And they're hinting at that, but they don't want to fully, I guess, go into that, which I guess they're probably gonna put a whole entire season just really using up a certain character, it seems, or barely just like briefly showing this character, and then it's like, oh well, that's going to be what season 2 is going to be for. We're going to play around with this character a little bit more. But at the end of this episode, we of course have Tawaret, and I'll explain who that is. And so going into this episode, just honestly, I'm kind of, I'm not thrilled, and I'm just like, what a waste. What a waste. Man, we only have 6 episodes and this show's almost over. There's 2. How are they going to wrap this up in 2 episodes? I don't get it. And then also, like, I swear, if they give us another episode without Moon Knight and powers, I'm going to be so livid. Because how many times has Moon Knight been really Moon Knight in 4 episodes? We, like, at the first episode, we get the little, like, clickbait of him being the Moon Knight. And then in, like, the second and the third episode, it's like, oh, we'll give you little things here and there. We'll give you both, like, the Steven version and then the Mark version of Moon Knight. But, like, and then I guess, like, the third episode, we kind of have this battle scene going on with Moon Knight. But again, like, it's not enough Moon Knight. That's not enough for a show. And then in this episode, it's taken away from us. So, anyways, so that's great. Just thumbs up for just the way that this feels like Iron Man 3, where instead of us getting like a really interesting Iron Man armor, instead we're getting like Robert Downey Jr.'s face the whole time. And I'm just like, but man, I want to see the fascinating things about Moon Knight. Oh, well, you don't really see that. Or you can't. So anyways, going into this episode, teeing it up, which may lead into spoilers, so I'm going to say that right out of the gate. So, we go on and we have the direct aftermath of what happened from the last episode, which is Moon Knight going on with Khonshu, going and doing the whole like shifting of the stars and stuff like that for them to figure out exactly where Amet is to be buried. So the aftermath of that is that Steven is to have fallen over, and Layla is to go on and be taking care of Steven until he regains consciousness. And then we go on and have both Layla and Steven, and I say Steven because of reasons, we have both these characters go on and try to make it to Amet's uh, burial place, and are to, of course, go on and have this kind of showdown between Hero, which really just leads to eventually uh, Mark being in a very bizarre place and Steven also being in a bizarre place, and maybe there might be someone also that might be in a bizarre place, but we don't see him. And we have a guy that looks like Hero but isn't Hero, and we have a new environment that hasn't yet been seen within this show yet. And so, really, for those of you that are to be all new, all different fans, this really is the spot where I'm like, yeah, because this is exactly where all new, all different Moon Knight really starts. And so, with that, like, I was just kind of like, okay, like, what are we just gonna get here? And all of a sudden, we just really have nothing within this part, but we just have this Tawarat or Tawarat. So, I'll explain who that is in spoilers. And we have some interesting Easter eggs within this episode that I enjoyed. So yeah, so with that said, I think it's about that time to go on into that double five. Let's just go into, of course, this thing that is to be called spoiler time. Spoiler time. It's about that time again to spoil this episode. I didn't normally do the spoiler time. I did it in a different way. So within this episode, we again have the aftermath of what Steven and Khonshu had done. And so Steven is laying like a log, and Layla is to have to drag Steven to safety, as we have a number of these kind of mercenaries wanting to go and try to kill off these two. So Layla is to go on as if this is Jurassic Park, and she is to like bust out this road flare, and she eventually somehow or another is to scare these guys away, and that of course leads to both Steven and Layla driving off. So we go on here and have, of course, Steven eventually having to explain to Layla here that after Steven and Mark are done with Khonshu, that Mark is going to forever allow Steven to take full control of this body, and Layla is asking Steven, it's like, well, like, shouldn't have Mark had talked to me about this before going on and like saying this? And Steven just tells Layla, it's like, well, technically, like, he kind of like got rid of you, right? Like, he hasn't really been in your life for I don't know how long, right? So like, what should it matter to you? And Layla's like, well, I guess you're right about that, but still. So we go on and we have them drive off to this cave, to Amet. And so we go on and have them have this kind of this rope gear, and we have it while they're kind of talking, and like Layla is talking about how Mark and Steven are either same or different, where Layla is to mention that Steven is to smell the same as Mark, but it seems that Steven is to be more honesty than Mark. And so Steven is to go on and lock his lips upon Layla here, and then they go off into this environment, this tomb, this place of sorts. So we start to find out more about Layla's dad, and that also leads to us possibly figuring out how Mark was to go on and become Moon Knight, because of course we go on and we have uh, Layla mentioning that her father was to be this architect and or this archaeologist that was on a mission and so on and so forth, and I guess that mission had gotten him killed. And so Mark was like, well, of course, yeah, I know about that mission because, of course, I was with your father as he was to get killed. And then Mark turned around and he had gotten shot, and he then sought out Khonshu to try to heal his wounds, but he had to also play the part of the vessel for Moon Knight. So like technically we didn't actually get the visual of it, but at least we get some origin of this character, of how he got on to even though it's not a real origin, like it's really just like, well, like this is how he became the character. It makes the most sense, right? And we don't get a visual of that. We don't get a flashback of it. We just get them like explaining it to us. Huzzah! Like, if there's so much dead time in this episode, they could have gone on and shot that whole thing and, like, just done it as a flashback. Like, if Boba Fett can have, like, a million different flashbacks in his show, like, why not have, like, a much more exciting episode where, like, you have all these stories and stuff like that that they can kind of use to, like, make this episode a lot more exciting than what it really is. Just like we could have had like the origin of this character right into this episode with, instead of this boringness that's kind of going on. So uh so we go on here, and Steven is to realize that this place is technically designed like the Eye of Horus, and he goes on and like draws it, and then he's like, well, hey, this is the tongue, this is the mouth, this is the this is the, and I'm like, okay, whatever any of this means, like whatever you guys just want to go on and just blah 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 blah, like go on and just figure it all out. So they're putting the pieces of this together, and we, of course, also in the very beginning of this episode have Khonshu's statue that is to be taken from where it was placed originally to have one of the avatars. And I'm not talking about the blue fellas. They say Avatar, and like we go on and we had like Steven who's like, oh yeah, I love that movie. Yeah. Plus, it's also on Disney Plus, hence why they reference that to remind people that, like, hey, Avatar's on Disney Plus. Hey, I didn't know Avatar's on Disney Plus. I'm probably gonna check it out after I watch this review. It's okay. You can check it out now. It's cool. It would be probably a lot more worth it. But anyways, so we go on and we have. Of course, Steven, that is to eventually go on and figure out that Alexander the Great, his coffin is to be nearby, because both Layla and Steven are to try to make their way, and they consistently hear gunfire going on in the background. Of like, what are they shooting at? Like, I don't get it. Because I think we ended up seeing in the early part of this episode that there were like servants that of course were alongside, and so I'm like, oh, okay, so these are like servants of Seth kind of thing. Even though it's kind of like not exactly, but still it's close enough. So we go on into this story, and Moon Knight is to bump into one of these kind of like servant guys, and it seems that he's going through and uh, like carving up some guy. And so Layla is right by this place. She's kind of hiding behind this little table, like trying to figure out how to like get away from this thing. And so Steven is watching on as this is like transpiring. So we go on and have them kind of like chuck these things and throw this stuff to kind of confuse this monstrous being. And so they kind of all like run their separate ways, and eventually Steven is to drop something on this to kill it. I think it's like a table or something like that to go on and crush it. So pushing on, we have a one point where Layla is to meet up with Hero, and we of course have Hero who's talking about Layla. We also had Steven, who was to let Layla know about Khonshu wanting Layla as the Moon Knight avatar. And so, like, that's when Layla was saying that Steven was to be, like, honesty, because Mark probably wouldn't have told her that, but Steven would. And so, wouldn't it be interesting if we went on and we had like a female Moon Knight all of a sudden, and that's how they would go into season 2 with female Moon Knight? Because I bet it's just like, well, yeah, like Mark and Steven, like, yeah, it's not the most sane way about going about doing this. So more than likely, what they're probably going to do is just have the female Moon Knight either in season 2 or by the end of this season is probably what's going to happen. So they can kind of like, well, hey, we'll hand off Khonshu, but like, we're not going to hand it off to Mark. We're going to hand it off to Layla, because like this is like foreshadowing that that's really going to happen here. So, but we have Hero who's talking to Layla, and so Hero is mentioning all the stuff that and he meaning Layla's father was to talk about Layla. And so while that's going on, we have Steven who's to go into Alexander the Great's coffin tomb thing. And so he opens this coffin up and is to like need to figure out like, okay, where is Amit? Like, where is this thing? So they go on and they realize that like both Mark and Steven are to realize that this is actually to be down this guy's throat. So Steven is to go on and break this jaw, and is to like put his hand down this guy's throat, and is to pull Mitt out. And so he's like, yeah, like we did it, we won. So yeah, they won and all, but really like we just turn around and have Hero with his men come in here and eventually shoot of course Mark here, after Mark of course was to go and try to kill some men, but Hero shoots him. So all of a sudden Mark is to be waking up in a mental hospital. I'm like, yeah, yeah. Like I was so excited about this because like this feels like all new, all different Marvel or Moon Knight. Um, because like this opens like all know all different Marvel Moon Knight opens in a insane asylum, and again you're thinking the whole time if like Moon Knight is just really crazy or like he's really believing this, and eventually like Khonshu comes to him and is to offer him being Moon Knight, and so we go on and we have like Moon Knight who just like concocts this weird goofy get up of this like Moon Knight costume, and he's like, oh, okay, I'm gonna be Moon Knight, it's gonna happen. So and again you're thinking like, man, this guy is just wild, this guy is crazy, and like hopefully he accomplishes what he needs to accomplish. So yeah, so we turn around and eventually this guy becomes like legitimately Moon Knight and so on and so forth, and takes down Servant Seth. But anyways, so Mark is to stroll through this insane asylum or this mental hospital. I don't know really which is the correct term here anymore. I guess insane asylum would seem too harsh. Mental hospital. So it seems that Layla is to be this mental patient too, medical patient, and she of course is talking about winning at bingo because it seems that they're rattling off all these names and numbers and or letters and numbers for bingo, and it seems that Layla is to win and she is to collect her prize. So Mark at some point is to be in this wheelchair, and when he tries to get out of it, he all of a sudden falls over because he's technically tied to this wheelchair. We have it at one point where Moon Knight is to have this Moon Knight action figure, which I was like, oh my god, that's so cool. Like it's kind of like Deadpool in Deadpool 2, or was it Deadpool 1? Whichever Deadpool it was, where oh yeah, I think it's Deadpool. Like it's somewhere I think in Deadpool, because I think in Deadpool 2 I think they had like the thing where it looked like Logan, like it was the aftermath of Logan. And so they had like some kind of mock thing that looked like Logan dying. And I think somewhere in Deadpool they had like the Wolverine origin action figure of Deadpool, which is the goofy one that eventually they retconned to basically just say like, oh, like that Deadpool and this Deadpool aren't one and the same. That was just some alternate universe thing that's not going to be this. So like there you go. Like we finally killed that thing off for you. So we go on into this story, and like I had to go and do an impasse there. Or we had Fantastic Four. They had like the thing action figure where it's like it's clobbering time. There's that too. Let me know in the comments below if there's any other like fourth wall breaking action figure holding movies of superheroes. That'd be pretty cool to have that list of all those. Because I'm sure there's going to be somebody that's going to be doing it somewhere. How much you want to bet? There's all of a sudden going to be like, hey, every single superhero is to have their action figure in their movie. Let's count down the ones that have it. Oh my god, yeah. Because of Moon Knight. So yeah. Even though this is a show, still it's going to count. So like you could probably say like Turbo, the Jingle All the Way Turbo movie. Anyways, so Moon Knight is to go through this mental hospital, and he eventually is to realize that there is some Egyptian coffin that is moving around. And so Marcus is trying to help open this coffin and realize that Steven is there. And so now we have both Steven and we have both Mark in the same room together, and they're going to hug one another. And so while both Steven and Mark are walking further and further into this mental hospital, we have another Egyptian coffin that is like standing upright and it's just kind of moving around. And the guys don't go on and open that one, even though they should, because that I'm sure is probably Jake Lockley, that they're still just kind of not wanting to get into because they're probably going to save that till the tail end of the season, or they're going to save it for next season. Because really, I'm just thinking it's like, well, like there's too much stuff going on already. No, there really isn't, but okay, sure. So we go on and we have Mark at some point also, who is to talk to a guy that looks like Ethan Hawke, and it's not Hero. And so Ethan Hawke's character is to be this this therapist who is trying to train Mark to kind of come back to reality. That it's like, hey, like you've had all these like psychotic breaks and all these other like what you're thinking that this other world is like not reality, and like it's just a delusion, yada yada yada. So we go on, and Ethan Hawke's character, this doctor, I'll just call him Doctor for here on out. We have this doctor who is to showcase that everything that Mark had gotten from, as far as this Moon Knight thing is considered, and also like the Stephen Grant persona, like is all coming from a movie that this guy really liked. That like one of the main characters is to be called Stephen Grant, and really any number of things is to just kind of be tied to this like VHS. And we go on, and the doctor is to mention like, well, yeah, like it was kind of crazy for me to go on and try to like find a VHS or VCR that would work. But hey, I found one and I watched this movie, and I'm like, you know what, like you're right about that, like you're right about this movie, it's really really good. And Mark is like, huh, like you're my villain, you're my arch nemesis. And so Ethan is going on and wanting to try to help Mark, and so Mark is to just scramble off, and he finds Steven, and then both of them are to find, of course, Tawaret, Tawarat. Eventually, they'll probably pronounce it in the next episode who this character's name actually is, but the Hippo Egyptian god is what we kind of see at the tail end of this. So, with that said, yeah, like a goofy way to just end an episode, but like it's whatever with this show. Yeah, like there really wasn't much going on in this episode, I feel like, besides like bits of dialogue where we get to know these characters a little bit more. But like as far as even action goes, there was like nothing really going on. So tune in next week just for hopefully a better episode. I don't know, we'll figure something out with the next week, because after you get past this episode, I'm going to say this now. Going on, if episode 5 has nothing really to go and do anything with action, or is to go on and still be a Moon Knight-less episode, I'm going to be upset. I'm going to be very, very furious, because I'm like, please don't tell me we're going to concentrate so much on a whole entire episode with this whole, like, with this whole thing Because I feel like we still haven't scratched the surface with Moon Knight's costumes and weaponry and whatever. And I feel like we're never going to get enough like the first pilot episode was so interesting, and it feels still like we've never gotten back to that same kind of episode of interesting, of fascinating, and it just feels like we never will, until maybe possibly this last episode just be like, wow, yeah, we're still chasing the fact that they ran around for a number of episodes, just like Hawkeye, just like Loki, just like every single other episode. It's like set us up and then run around and then set us up again and then see you next season. It's just okay, I just don't get this whatsoever. Um but I still am willing to tune in for the following episodes to kind of see how this transpires. Uh, but I really was so I'm really happy. I'm even though I'm kind of just not really showcasing that. I'm kind of happy where this show was to go, but I would never want to probably rewatch it. Because I just wouldn't, because I probably wouldn't have time to do it anyways. Um, but yeah, that first pilot episode was so good. Um, or to me, it was good. But anything after that is just kind of like I have to get a consolation prize of something that I like, instead of getting what should have been the greatest freaking Disney Plus show. Should have been straight up just adapted straight from all new, all different Marvel, and instead we're just getting this. We're just getting this thing that we have to see every week. And man, do I cannot wait for She-Hulk to come around. Man, if I feel like it's going to be a show that's going to save Disney Plus, man, if this wasn't a convenient thing for me to already be able to have and see and whatever, I don't know that I would probably have a subscription for Disney Plus, because I could go on and just get the content elsewhere, and there isn't a ton of stuff that I'm really poking through on Disney Plus anymore. Um, Really, there's so many other things that I would actually oh well, I'm going through stars and stuff. I'm going through so much other content. But anyways, I'm going to content myself out of here. Goodbye, everybody. Bye, everybody.